When writing a story, my friend, I think it's important to ask why would someone want to read the story? Now, again, we can write stories for our own benefit or for basically the audience of one. But the thing is, once we get past what we would like the story to be in and we actually want to kind of market it or get it out to people, we kind of have to start thinking about what they would want. Or why would they want to watch this show? What will grab the audience interest? And in turn, we'll think about that by what we've kind of advertised it as. What is the promise that is then being given? Because the thing is, whenever we do something or somewhat, people have expectations. And the reason I think is kind of outlined in this verse. Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. In essence, we could get into the whole philosophy debate about how humanity hasn't really changed all that much. We can still be very tribal, very rude, all those kinds of things. They basically, as much as we try to treat ourselves as enlightened and past certain behaviors, they still crop up, especially when we get arrogant enough to think we are much better than anyone who's ever come before us. But again, that's the philosophy debate. In story terms, we can talk about cliches and tropes that have been in stories many times. And again, it's to a point where sometimes, if you just know the setup for a movie, you can predict the whole entire plot line, like you've seen it 100 times, so you know exactly what is going to happen and can almost nail when the moments that are going to happen. Well, you probably know the story beats at least. You might not know exactly when they're going to happen, but again, it's kind of like a thing where you kind of pretty much know what you're getting into. Now, again, people tend like that. And there are whole channels that basically make movies with the same exact plot points. And it's almost beat for beat the same. And again, it's nice to just sometimes relax and have some popcorn and have that bit of escapism. But sometimes that's not enough. So, what do you do to make it stand apart? Again, those movies with the same plot lines have minute differences in them that can kind of change how things worked out, or at least kind of change the window dressing at times. So, what is the unique hook, twist, or spin to put on this? You're putting on the story. Caution though, because we tend to go a bit too far with that. Because we tend to try to make something so unique, or that we twist something into what it was never meant to be, in a sense. Because whenever we apply a concept, it kind of comes with an inherent meaning. And again, that's an important trait to stress. What is inherent to the concept we want to use? Because while concepts can be very broad at times, there are still certain expectations or meanings that go with them. Again, if we're writing basically a romance novel, people expect a romance in it. If you want to subvert expectations and basically do a completely non-romantic story, no love at all, even swear off love, then you're pretty much not writing a romance novel. You're basically writing the subversion of a romance novel. So I'm not sure what that would be, in a sense, if that would still be filed under that or be filed completely differently. But it's just something that it's not really a romance genre anymore when you take out the romance. And that goes with saying that these meanings to these concepts have certain promises and expectations when you use them. For kind of like the fantasy settings, we can think of dragons, elves, and dwarves. Each of those have certain images that comes to mind, and that we think on how they're going to play in the story, of how they might play in the story, different options. And even with elves, there are two vastly different concepts for them. Basically, the kind of Tolkienist fantasy elves and the Santa Claus elves. So again, you have that thing where it's like, sure, you can use elves and you can kind of very broad categories, but once you stray from either of those, what are they anymore? Or we can even think how our stories and franchises have those expectations. Again, when a character has been long running, there are certain ways they are expected to act because of how they've been written in the past. Now again, Multiple writers means those characters' characterization can get thrown out of a drop of the hat at times, but then there are certain expectations that come from that history. Even kind of maybe the quality of the work at times. So I think the key way to kind of think about this is that there's a difference between making something your own versus making your own something. Because on one hand, one is changing something that is known to set it apart from what has come before. And again, you can twist certain things and like change one minute detail to give it a fresh spin. Sometimes just by simply asking, what if this happened? Or what if this was a key component to this world? How would things change to it, even if it would be the typical setting of the genre otherwise? Yet there is a fine line to that. That at some point, the concept that was known is no longer what it was. It's basically become a name only, which is now meaningless at that point. It's kind of like when you can look at almost sometimes like those reboots of shows where it's like, oh, I remember this from when I was a kid, and then it's like, wait a minute, these characters are acting nothing like how the characters did in the past. So it's just sort of something interesting to think about. And again, it's like anything that has been done before now has expectations. But by making something that is yours, even if it's inspired by something, is able to be its own thing and not be held back by unmet expectations because you use the name of something in the thing. It can be thought of as there's a difference between asking, what would this character do in a situation, and this is the situation and this is how the characters are going to act or act. But at least this is what I think. But since I'm still contemplating this self, why not share your thoughts in the comments below? And if you enjoyed this video, you can like and share it so others may enjoy as well. Anyway, I'm Jonah, and you've been watching Lions Made Media, where we celebrate the stories and lessons of them. Thank you for listening to my musings. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.